Leviticus 20. The laws which before were made are in this chapter repeated and penalties annexed to them, that those who would not be deterred from sin by the fear of God might be deterred from it by the fear of punishment. If we will not avoid such and such practices because the law has made them sin, and it is most acceptable when we go on that principle of religion, surely we shall avoid them when the law has made them death, from a principle of self-preservation. In this chapter we have many particular crimes that are made capital. 1. Giving their children to Moloch, verse 1 through 5. 2. Consulting witches, verse 6-27. 3. Cursing parents, verse 9. 4. Adultery, verse 10. 5. Incest, verse 11, 12, 14, 17, 19 through 21. 6. Unnatural lusts, verse 13, 15, 16, and 18. 2. General commands given to be holy, verse 7, 8, 22 through 26.
Moral laws, 1490 BC. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, Whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do anyways hide their eyes from the man when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off and all that go a-whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech, from among their people. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a-whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your God. And ye shall keep my statutes, and do them. I am the Lord which sanctify you. For every one that curseth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. He hath cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. Moses is here directed to say that again to the children of Israel which he had in effect said before. We are sure it was no vain repetition, but very necessary, that they might give the more earnest heed to the things that were spoken, and might believe them to be of great consequence, being so often inculcated. God speaketh once, yea, twice, and what he orders to be said again, we must be willing to hear again, because for us it is safe. Philippians 3:1.
3 sins are in these verses threatened with death. 1. Parents abusing their children by sacrificing them to Moloch. Verses 2-3. There is the grossest absurdity that can be in all the rites of idolatry, and they are all a great reproach to men's reason. But none trampled upon all the honors of human nature as this did, the burning of children in the fire to the honor of a dunghill god. It was a plain evidence that their gods were devils, who desired and delighted in the misery and ruin of mankind, and that the worshippers were worse than the beasts that perish, perfectly stripped not only of reason, but of natural affection. Abraham's offering Isaac could not give countenance, much less could it give rise to this barbarous practice, since, though that was commanded, it was immediately countermanded. Yet such was the power of the God of this world over the children of disobedience, that this monstrous piece of inhumanity was generally practiced. And even the Israelites were in danger of being drawn into it, which made it necessary that this severe law should be made against it. It was not enough to tell them they might spare their children, the fruit of their body should never be accepted for the sin of their soul, but they must be told that the criminal himself should be put to death as a murderer. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, verses 2, which was looked upon as the worst of capital punishments among the Jews. If the children were sacrificed to the malice of the devil, the parents must be sacrificed to the justice of God. And if either the fact could not be proved or the magistrates did not do their duty, God would take the work into his own hands. I will cut him off. Verse 3. Note, those that escape punishment from men yet shall not escape the righteous judgments of God. So wretchedly do those deceive themselves that promise themselves impunity in sin. How can those escape against whom God sets his face, that is, whom he frowns upon, meets as an enemy, and fights against? The heinousness of the crime is here set forth to justify the doom. It defiles the sanctuary and profanes the holy name of God, for the honor of both of which he is jealous. Observe, the malignity of the sin is laid upon that in it which was peculiar to Israel. When the Gentiles sacrificed their children, they were guilty of murder and idolatry. But if the Israelites did it, they incurred the additional guilt of defiling the sanctuary, which they attended upon even when they lay under this guilt, as if there might be an agreement between the temple of God and idols, and of profaning the holy name of God by which they were called, as if he allowed his worshippers to do such things.
2. That all his aiders and abettors should be cut off likewise by the righteous hand of God. If his neighbors concealed him and would not come in as witnesses against him, if the magistrates connived at him and would not pass sentence upon him, rather pitying his folly than hating his impiety, God himself would reckon with them. Verse 4 and 5. Misprision of idolatry is a crime cognizable in the court of heaven, and which shall not go unpunished. I will set my face against that man, that magistrate, Jer 5:1, and against his family. Note 1. The wickedness of the master of a family often brings ruin upon a family, and he that should be the housekeeper proves the housebreaker. 2. If magistrates will not do justice upon offenders, God will do justice upon them, because there is danger that many will go a-whoring after those who do but countenance sin by winking at it. And if the sins of leaders be leading sins, it is fit that their punishments should be exemplary punishments. 3. Children's abusing their parents by cursing them. Verse 9. If children should speak ill of their parents, or wish ill to them, or carry it scornfully or spitefully towards them, it was an iniquity to be punished by the judges, who were employed as conservators both of God's honor and of the public peace, which were both attacked by this unnatural insolence. See Proverb 30:17. The eye that mocks at his father, the ravens of the valley shall pick out, which intimates that such wicked children were in a fair way to be not only hanged, but hanged in chains. This law of Moses Christ quotes and confirms, Matthew 15:4, for it is as direct a breach of the fifth commandment as willful murder is of the sixth. The same law which requires parents to be tender to their children requires children to be respectful to their parents. He that despitefully uses his parents, the instruments of his being, flies in the face of God himself, the author of his being, who will not see the paternal dignity and authority insulted and trampled upon. 4. Persons abusing themselves by consulting such as have familiar spirits. Verse 6. By this, as much as anything, a man diminishes, disparages, and deceives himself, and so abuses himself. What greater madness can there be than for a man to go to a liar for information, and to an enemy for advice? Those do so who turn after those who deal in the black art and know the depths of Satan. This is spiritual adultery, as much as idolatry is, giving that honor to the devil which is due to God only. And the jealous God will give a bill of divorce to those that thus go a-whoring from him, and will cut them off, they having first cut themselves off from him. 2. In the midst of these particular laws comes in that general charge, verses 7 and 8, where we have 1. The duties required, and they are 2. 1. That in our principles, affections, and aims we be holy. 2. That in all our actions and in the whole course of our conversation we be obedient to the laws of God. 2. The reasons to enforce these duties. 1. I am the Lord your God, therefore be holy, that you may resemble him whose people you are, and may be pleasing to him. Holiness becomes his house and household. 2. I am the Lord who sanctifieth you. God sanctified them by peculiar privileges, laws, and favors, which distinguished them from all other nations and dignified them as a people set apart for God. He gave them His word and ordinances to be means of their sanctification, and His good Spirit to instruct them. Therefore, they must be holy, else they receive the grace of God herein in vain. Note: 1. God's people are, and must be, persons of distinction. God has distinguished them by His holy covenant, and therefore they ought to distinguish themselves by their holy conversation. 2. God sanctifying us is a good reason why we should sanctify ourselves, that we may comply with the designs of His grace and not walk contrary to them. If it is the Lord that sanctifies us, we may hope the work shall be done, though it be difficult. The manner of expression is like that 2 Corinthians 5:5. He that hath wrought us for the selfsame thing is God, and His grace is so far from superseding our care and endeavor that it most strongly engages and encourages them. Work out your salvation, for it is God that worketh in you. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood shall be upon them. If a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. And if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and he shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach unto any beast, and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. And if a man shall lie with the woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he hath discovered her fountain, and she hath uncovered the fountain of her blood, and both of them shall be cut off from among their people. And thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin, they shall bear their iniquity. And if a man shall lie with his uncle's wife, he hath uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their sin, they shall die childless. And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He hath uncovered his brother's nakedness, they shall be childless. Sins against the seventh commandment are here ordered to be severely punished. These are sins which, of all others, fools are most apt to make a mock at. But God would teach those the heinousness of the guilt by the extremity of the punishment that would not otherwise be taught it. 1. Lying with another man's wife was made a capital crime. The adulterer and the adulteress that had joined in the sin must fall alike under the sentence. They shall both be put to death. Long before this, even in Job's time, this was reputed a heinous crime and an iniquity to be punished by the judges. Job 31:11. It is a presumptuous contempt of an ordinance of God and a violation of His covenant. Proverbs 2:17. It is an irreparable wrong to the injured husband and debauches the mind and conscience of both the offenders as much as anything. It is a sin which headstrong and unbridled lusts hurry men violently to, and therefore it needs such a powerful restraint as this. It is a sin which defiles a land and brings down God's judgments upon it, which disquiets families and tends to the ruin of all virtue and religion, and therefore is fit to be inverted upon by the conservators of the public peace. But see John 8, 3-11.
2. Incestuous connections, whether by marriage or not. 1. Some of them were to be punished with death, as a man's lying with his father's wife, verse 11. Reuben would have been put to death for his crime, Genesis 35:22. If this law had been then made, it was the sin of the incestuous Corinthian for which he was to be delivered unto Satan, 1 Corinthians 5:1-5. A man's debauching his daughter-in-law, or his mother-in-law, or his sister was likewise to be punished with death, verses 12, 14, and 17. 2. Others of them God would punish with the curse of barrenness, as a man's defiling his aunt or his brother's wife, verses 19-21. They shall die childless. Those that keep not within the divine rules of marriage forfeit the blessings of marriage. They shall commit whoredom and shall not increase. Hosea 4:10. Nay, it is said, they shall bear their iniquity. That is, though they be not immediately cut off by the hand either of God or man for this sin, yet the guilt of it shall lie upon them to be reckoned for another day, and not be purged with sacrifice or offering. 3. The unnatural lusts of sodomy and bestiality. Sins not to be mentioned without horror were to be punished with death, as they are at this day by our law. Verses 13, 15, and 16. Even the beast that was thus abused was to be killed with the sinner, who was thereby openly put to the greater shame. And the villainy was thus represented as in the highest degree execrable and abominable, all occasions of the remembrance or mention of it being to be taken away. Even the unseasonable use of the marriage, if presumptuous and in contempt of the law, would expose the offenders to the just judgment of God. They shall be cut off, verse 18. For this is the will of God, that every man should possess his vessel, and the wife is called the weaker vessel, in sanctification and honor, as becomes saints. Ye shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you naught out. And ye shall not walk in the menace of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people. Ye shall therefore put difference between clean beast and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I the Lord am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. A man also, or woman, that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them.
The last verse is a particular law, which comes in after the general conclusion, as if omitted in its proper place. It is for the putting of those to death that dealt with familiar spirits. Verse 27. It would be an affront to God and to his lively oracles, a scandal to the country, and a temptation to ignorant bad people to consult them, if such were known and suffered to live among them. Those that are in league with the devil have in effect made a covenant with death and an agreement with hell, and so shall their doom be. The rest of these verses repeat and inculcate what had been said before, for to that unthinking, forgetful people, it was requisite that there should be line upon line, and that general rules, with their reasons, should be frequently insisted on for the enforcement of particular laws and making them more effectual. 3 things we are here reminded of. Their dignity. 1. They had the Lord for their God. Verse 24. They were his care, his choice, his treasure, his jewels, his kingdom of priests. Verse 26. That you should be mine. Happy the people, and truly great, that are in such a case. 2.
Their God was a holy God, verse 26, infinitely advanced above all others. His holiness is his glory, and it was their honor to be related to him, while their neighbors were the infamous worshippers of impure and filthy spirits. 3. The great God had separated them from other people, verse 24, and again, verse 26. Other nations were the common. They were the enclosure, beautified and enriched with peculiar privileges and designed for peculiar honors. Let them therefore value themselves accordingly, preserve their honor, and not lay it in the dust by walking in the way of the heathen. 2. Their duty. This is inferred from their dignity. God had done more for them than for others, and therefore expected more from them than from others. And what is it that the Lord their God requires in consideration of the great things done and designed? 1. You shall keep all my statutes, verse 22. And there was all the reason in the world that they should. For the statutes were their honor, and obedience to them would be their lasting comfort. 2. You shall not walk in the manners of nations, verse 23. Being separated from them, they must not associate with them nor learn their ways. The manners of the nations were bad enough in them, but would be much worse in God's people. 3. You shall put a difference between clean and unclean, verse 25. This is holiness, to discern between things that differ, not to live at large as if we might say and do anything, but to speak and act with caution. 4. You shall not make your souls abominable, verse 25. Our constant care must be to preserve the honor by preserving the purity of our own souls, and never to do anything to make them abominable to God and to our own consciences.
3. Their danger. 1. They were going into an infected place, verse 24. You shall inherit their land, a land flowing with milk and honey, which they would have the comfort of if they kept their integrity. But withal, it was a land full of idols, idolatries, and superstitious usages, which they would be apt to fall in love with, having brought from Egypt with them a strange disposition to take that infection. 2. If they took the infection, it would be of pernicious consequence to them. The Canaanites were to be expelled for these very sins. They committed all these things, therefore I abhorred them. Verse 23. See what an evil thing sin is. It provokes God to abhor his own creatures, whereas otherwise he delights in the work of his hands. And if the Israelites trod in the steps of their impiety, they must expect that the land would spew them out. Verse 22. As he had told them before, chapter 18:28. If God spared not the natural branches, but broke them off, neither would he spare those who were grafted in if they degenerated. Thus, the rejection of the Jews stands for a warning to all Christian churches to take heed lest the kingdom of God be taken from them. Those that sin like others must expect to smart like them, and their profession of relation to God will be no security to them.